Hi there, Julie Cross here. Been a little while since I've done a video, so I thought it was time to share with you. And what I'm going to share with you today is a little bit about parenting. I'm no expert in parenting, believe me, and if anyone who follows me on Facebook, you see, the good, the bad and the ugly. But just as Jack prepares to leave home, and he really is leaving home, he's going to join the army and he's leaving home. And in reflection, the realisation that it's done. Whatever I have given him and we have given him and whatever is in him, as a parent, I'm really handing him over to life now, and he'll have to make his own choices from here on in. And that's pretty confronting, because some of the things you're seeing, you think, oh my God, I didn't do that well enough, or I should have spent some time more teaching him that, or wow, that's fantastic, that value in him is so great. And so suddenly it's all very confronting that he's walking out the door and, with whatever I've done and it's in him. But what I know for sure is, and I've said this before, is that some of our greatest parenting, I think, comes in the gaps of our parenting. So I call it growing through the gaps, because we put so much pressure on ourselves as parents to do everything right and to be there for them in every possible way and to make sure that we make their life easier, etc. And I've always said that anytime we give them something, we've got to ask ourselves what we're taking away. Because obviously as parents, the idea is that we're preparing them to be adults. That's what parenting is we're parenting our children and keeping them safe and loved. And obviously bringing them up to be good adults. And so, sometimes the gaps that I've that I beat myself up about have been the times where the boys have had the greatest growth. So, the gap where you didn't get there in time to pick them up, they suddenly grow into the gap of learning independence and resilience and, working it out on their own. The gap that you created because you couldn't go to every football game, well, they learn that they don't always need the applause of everybody else, and that they, can rely on that from themselves. They don't need everybody there watching them all the time and approving of what they're doing. The gap that might come the day that they never did their homework, and then instead of you making it easy for them and ringing the teacher and, you stayed steadfast and said, no, well, you should have done your homework and you're going to have to pay the consequences for that. That's how they develop resilience and strength and self-esteem and belief that they've got it in themselves, etc. Not from us always making it easy for them. And then with Jack's car, he earned his money, he bought the car, and all he could afford was a $2,000 old car. And so gaps came with that, because it's broken down and there's been problems with it. But every time that's happened, there's been a gift in that gap. Suddenly he's out there and learning all about his car. Suddenly there was once that he rang me and he was driving home from school and the car stopped outside the school, and I'm away on a weekend with Thomas. We'd just driven for 2 hours to go on this legacy weekend away with families, and Thomas had been yapping at me for 2 hours in the car and asking me the hundreds of thousands of questions that I was supposed to answer, so I was a little bit stressed. And then Jack rings and says, Mum, my car's broken down. And I had that moment of, oh my gosh, this damn car. Why didn't I just get him a better car that went all the time? And, other kids got better cars, and have I failed him? And I said, well, mate, I can't do anything. I'm 2 hours away. What do you want me to do? And he said, well, you could be a little bit more sympathetic, and what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, well, mate, you're going off to the army in a few months. You need to be able to figure some stuff out here. You need to be able to work this out. Ring somebody. Ring, so-and-so. Ring them and see what they can do. Ring RACQ. Oh, well, you're not much help, hangs up. And I'm like, mate, I've got to go and pee. I've just got to go. So I left. He hangs up. We're, annoyed at each other. Then I start going, oh, my gosh, have I failed him? There's a gap here. I'm supposed to be fixing this. He hasn't got his dad to go and do it. Beat yourself up. The next minute, the phone rings, and it's Jack, and he goes, oh, Mum, I am such a legend. I fixed it. I could almost see him doing this, thumping his chest, feeling fantastic about himself. So he grew into that gap. I wasn't there to fix the situation. So suddenly he grows into the gap and he works it out. And what does that do? It makes him feel good. It shows him that he can problem solve and that he can do things. It nurtures his self-esteem. So don't beat yourself up about the gaps. Sometimes they need to have gaps. That's how we grow. We grow into the gaps. And I've seen my boys, with Flash leaving us and passing away, Jack really grew into that gap. He grew in wisdom and resilience and courage and strength and self-esteem. And now with Jack going off to the army, I see Thomas will grow, and he'll grow into that gap that's left there too as well. So don't beat yourself up. Some of the greatest gifts come through our most imperfect moments, or what we think of being our most imperfect moments as parents. So give yourself a break. And sometimes we need a few gaps in our life to grow into. Thanks very much. See ya.